Natalie Portman, in town for Jackie. And I saw this in Toronto at this incredible screening. And afterwards, you admitted you were a little scared of it. What frightened you about it, or challenged you the most?
Well, I think that playing a figure that people are so familiar with, that people know exactly how she talked and looked, really makes makes it scary, because you want to be believable more than anything when an audience watches your film, that you have to cross that threshold of just people believing who you are.
So dressing up and putting on the costumes and putting on the pink suit with the blood, Pablo went farther in terms of really portraying what this woman went through.
Yes, it was very extreme, what she really lived through and what she really dealt with, and I think it was great to have Pablo guiding us, because he was really interested in what she was like as a human being, not as an icon, and didn't have sort of, because he's not American, he's Chilean, he doesn't have this sort of baggage of the Kennedys as our royals, or as our legends that you need to revere and be so careful with. He allowed us to get to play them as human beings with strengths and flaws.
How did you feel when you began to realize that his solution for the best way to shoot this movie was to come in really close on your face?
Well, it was lucky in that a lot of it was handheld. Our DP Stefan was incredible, and they lit sort of the whole space so that we could move around freely. And it became a sort of dance almost with Stefan, because he also operated the camera. And it was really incredible, because I think it gave us a lot of freedom to improvise, to go different directions, and to feel free in the space as you would in your own house, which, primarily we were shooting in the White House. And so that was actually a gift. And then also, when the camera is that close, you also have the operator that close and the focus puller that close. And a lot of the scenes where I'm alone, you actually have someone to communicate with, because you're feeling energy with them, and they're very emotional, invested people in the story as well. And so you have someone with you that you're communicating with, and that's also how the audience is experiencing the emotions through their eyes. So it's great that they're sort of characters in the scene with you.
The scene that I remember that you're bringing to mind right now is in fact in her bedroom, very white, and this is the one time when you're utterly alone, where you act out fully. That was fun.
Yeah, well, Pablo had this great idea of sort of her sort of farewell to the house and to her role as First Lady, sort of trying on all her dresses and drinking and smoking and walking around by herself. That of course is complete imagination, but it does give such a great sense of her sort of trying on all these identities that she's had and all these roles that she's had, and the identity crisis that she's left with when she's no longer her husband's wife, she's no longer the First Lady of the country, and all of these ways she's defined herself are now taken away overnight, and she has to reconstruct her identity.
So she leans a lot on Bobby, played by Peter Sarsgaard.
Yes.
Very well.
A wonderful Peter Sarsgaard, yes.
So the two of you had to navigate the accents. That, to me, was probably the highest order of difficulty for both of you.
It was definitely challenging. We had a great dialect coach, Tanya Blumstein, who worked with us. And, the thing that's hard is that they're not very common accents. For Jackie, it's a real combination. It's almost, you almost get sort of like a diagram of her upbringing or her background, because she has this very sort of Long Island, New York accent where, you know, she says things like talk and walk, and but then it's mixed with this like prep school, finishing school, cosmopolitan, aspirational, mid-Atlantic thing where she'll say rather, and you know, the L's can be light, you know, she'll say lovely, you know, like and so that combination is really, really particular to her. But luckily there's also a lot of materials on her, you know, both visual, like, you know, the stuff you can find on YouTube of her doing interviews or the White House tour. And then there's also a lot of audio tapes of her speaking privately, you know, and interviews with Schlesinger that were really helpful because he was a friend of hers as well. So you could kind of see how she talked privately compared to publicly.
She really had this very soft, whispery kind of, almost, I don't want to say baby voice, but there was a girl-like quality.
Yes, and that's much more in the public stuff than in the private. You hear the register of the voice dropping, the speed going faster. I think that, you know, it was very much one of the ways she wanted to present herself, because of course it was much more acceptable to be very sort of feminine and girly, and, you know, it was surprising to me too how breathy and whispery her voice was in those public appearances.
So what she does when she finds this inner strength to basically stand up against everyone and say, and it's Jack Valenti too. I don't know if you ever met Jack Valenti.
No.
I knew him.
Right.
When he was the head of the MPAA.
Right, he was
a figure here in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But as a much older man. But she actually is doing that for what reason? For her children, for her country, for her husband's legacy. This is the cortege, the funeral cortege.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about Pablo's movie, is that, you know, it doesn't tell you what to think, and it raises these questions of, you know, who's it really for? Is it to honor her husband? Is it because she has an ego herself and wants to make herself a queen? Is it, you know, to give her children, you know, great legacy of their father? Is it to give the country courage that it's safe to even walk around, because obviously the terror after something like that happens is enormous. You know, I think it's a little bit of everything maybe, and also that hopefully each viewer will have their own sort of perception of it based on the way they see things.
That's interesting. So you make decisions about the roles that you make. I find it actually quite fascinating, because you're not doing it on the basis of how commercial something will be or anything like that. It feels like you're looking at the roles and the directors very carefully.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that go into these decisions, and I feel like at different moments in my life, it's been different things too. You know, there have been moments in my life that I wanted to do something really like silly and fun, and there are moments where I've wanted to work with really, you know, directors that I am obsessed with, no matter what the role was, or, you know, I just wanted to be part of their process. And there are moments when I don't have many options, but I really feel like working, and it's the best of what's offered, you know, and I just really want to work. And there,
I find that hard to believe.
Thanks, but I've been very, very lucky that I've gotten to do a big variety of things, and with people I admire.
I wondered if the directing of your movie empowered you in some way to sort of go, I want to try new things, because I just looked at all the films you have coming up, which there are quite a few. You've been working very hard, including a TV series.
Well, that's really like in early development. That's very far away.
Though, an HBO thing, which sounds really cool, and the long-running Terrence Malick experiment, which we will see eventually. Weightless, and then Annihilation with Alex Garland, the guy who did Ex Machina. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Annihilation is a really, really great script by Alex Garland, based on a book by Jeff Vandermeer, and it was an incredible piece. It's a very uncommonly has 5 women sort of going into this unexplained environmental phenomenon to try and understand what's happening, and they're all sort of scientists of different types. And so I had the rare opportunity of getting to work with amazing people like Gina Rodriguez and Tessa Thompson, Tuva Novotny, and Jennifer Jason Leigh. And I say rare because actresses rarely get to work with each other. You know, it's usually a film of all males and, you know, 1 woman, maybe 2 if you're lucky.
Do you apply the Bechdel test when you look at roles?
I do. I'm grateful that exists. I mean, I do think that it's possible for a film to, I think it's possible for a film to not pass the test and not be sexist. But it's a rare occasion. It's a rare occasion.
Now, Xavier Dolan, that also interests me that you would want to work with him.
Yes. Mommy is one of the most remarkable films I've seen in the past several years, and I think he's really, really incredible. I'm going to see his newest film next week, which I'm very excited about. It's Only the End of the World. And yes, it's a small role in his next film, but I'm just excited to work with him and be part of his vision.
So at the beginning of this process, you had worked with Darren Aronofsky before, and obviously in your Oscar-winning role in Black Swan, but he developed this project initially. So were you ever attached to it to begin with before Pablo came on board?
Well, Darren had sent it to me like 5 or 6 years ago when he had already decided not to. He had acquired the property, but had decided not to direct it. He just wanted to produce it, and he said, "Oh, would you be interested in this?" And I read it and I loved the script, but I thought that it was so crucial who would direct it. You know, that would define whether it was, that someone could turn it into something conventional or could turn it into something really incredible. And so he proposed people over the years, and none of it really worked out. And then he came to me last year with the idea of Pablo.
And what made Pablo look good to you?
Well, I saw his films, which are incredible and very unique and have a very specific vision. And then I met him, and he had a very clear idea for what he wanted to do, but also a real openness to discovery. And then he had this kind of daring, sense of, he was like, we're either just diving into this together right now or we walk away, but you have to, you commit and you go for it, And it was this, it was a great energy to have, an inspiration to have, to just be like, okay, we're going to go forward with this.
And I think it worked out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.